This is how I've gone from a struggling, lost electrician 7-8 years ago to investing in property from the middle of Greece and absolutely loving it. This is how I'm doing it, how I'm operating it, and how over the past 7-8 years I've really scaled the businesses. First of all, hello, my name is Ryan Eastley. I'm a property investor from the UK, South Wales. I've been investing in property for over nearly 8 years now, building my own portfolio and helping others to do the same thing. We only operate in South Wales and we've got a 7-figure portfolio. We have probably about 80 to 100 people a year build their portfolio as well, and that includes doing flips as well. So not just building portfolios, but just making money or doing fixed returns to make money from property. So back in 2017, I was working as an electrician. I was working 11, 12 hours a day, which isn't crazy hours, but like, at least, you know, in theory it wasn't. But it was more the fact that when you're sat testing electrics on the farm in -3 degrees, freezing your ass off. Excuse the bad language, but it's absolutely freezing, and thinking, am I going to be doing this for the next 20, 30 years? That's my big question, and it was a big reason why I got into property, because I realised that I was very unfulfilled, and it was also the fact that I was talking with a lot of experienced engineers, and a lot of them were really unfulfilled in what they were doing as well, and they were like 50 years old. They've been doing it for like 20, 30 years. They complained every day. They were talking to them, they would talk about their managers getting a poor way, and it's not the sort of environment I wanted to be in. And the irony is I have a lot of respect for Sparkies in the sense of what they actually do. Like, being an electrician is hard. You know, I know there's a lot of nicknames and sayings about Sparkies and this and that, but I gotta say, like, it is hard work. It's very laborious. You got to really work hard for it, and you got to really be, you know, even health and safety wise, you know, you could die every day. Literally, if you get electrocuted and something goes wrong with your heart, you could literally die. So there's a high risk factor with it as well on top of things. So it's like, if you made a big mistake on a high voltage situation, you're screwed. Or you can blow a limb off, right? So it's kind of like, that's not a sort of system I wanted to be in. And I did that. I did the apprenticeship. I did an electrical apprenticeship before that to become qualified. So from 19 did the apprenticeship, then obviously by about 23 I was qualified. Then from 23 onwards I was doing this. So I was being an electrician, working, you know, 12 hours a day, for example, working with these contractors, and I loved it at the start because it's something new, and I get bored very easily, and I just thought, okay, this is something new I can venture into. But I tell you what, the amount of negativity around it from engineers in general, and just kind of like submitting to your boss all the time. They control your life pretty much. You've got to ask for permission to do certain bits here and there, and obviously that's normal from an employee point of view as well sometimes. But I don't deal well with being managed, and this is something I really and I don't know if it's an ego thing. I don't know. Like, I don't consider myself to have a big ego, but I just also kind of sit here and think maybe that is one of my flaws from an ego perspective, where I'm like, the idea of someone sitting there and controlling I can and can't do. I still intend to do the job. I still intend to get the task done. It's just kind of like being micromanaged is just not for me. In fact, I don't think it's for anyone, but you get the point. So I felt really fulfilled. I really wanted to kind of grow a lot, and being around people who just complained all day and didn't enjoy what they were doing and hadn't enjoyed it for a long time really told me that if I'm going to do that, I'm also not going to be fulfilled. I'm also not going to be happy. And it's also financially, because for me, I was getting X amount of salary. I was making good money. I was probably making about 60k a year, which, you know, is quite a fair, a healthy salary. It puts you on kind of the higher bracket, right? But even so, I was getting a set salary per month. So it's kind of like, if I wanted to make investments, if I wanted to grow and build, it was too predictable, because I was sitting there and thinking, okay, I'm mid-20s, I'm making X amount per month net, and it's like, if I really want to grow this, it's like, how the hell do I grow this? So this is where property came into it, because I'm thinking, okay, I'm getting X amount. I know that in 6 months' time, if I accumulate this, I'll have 10 grand, so on and so forth, if I can keep saving. But it is a slow burner, because back then I didn't know about raising finance. I didn't know you could raise finance. I didn't know how all that worked. And also I didn't know I could help other people invest in property, because ironically I didn't know about it myself. You know, this is, you know, 8 years ago. This is before I even before I even had a portfolio. So it's a really interesting time for me to venture into, because it was absolutely essential to get into property for these reasons. Now, property was just one of the investment vehicles I had, but it was essential to find something that got me out of the rat race. And I know rat race is so cliche and cheesy, whatever, but like in theory, that's exactly the logic I had back then. I really wanted to get out of it. I really was not wanting to be in that environment for the next 20, 30 years. It didn't make sense to me. It really didn't. I'd rather work 80 hours a week building a future that I can support with my kids and support my parents and support my family and just have a life I actually want like this, than work 12 hours a day, be totally submissive to someone that I don't really get on with or like just because I get a salary at the end of the month. Not for me. And also from a scalability point of view, how do you actually build the life you want when you've got such a set fixed income every month? Where's the room for growth? Where's the opportunity there to really scale up? So that's where I was all that time. And this is kind of where I ended up. I bought my first buy-to-let at that time as well. So I saved up my salary to buy a deposit, to use that as for a deposit on a buy-to-let, and that's great. But even so, like, I realised one buy-to-let wasn't going to cut it. So then that feeds me on to how did the actual portfolio start? So the portfolio started when, like I said, I was saving up the salary. I bought one single buy-to-let. So I remortgaged my residential property, also had a deposit there that I saved up from just the salary and everything. And kind of what I realised was I could use that to, yes, buy the first buy-to-let. And then through having a buy-to-let, I realised, okay, I'm making cash flow, I'm building, literally building my actual cash flow. I thought, hell, if I get 10 of these, I replace my entire income, or I can match it and double my actual income. So I go from 60k a year to 120k a year, and that's amazing. And I thought that was wicked. I really did. And then I started looking on YouTube. I actually found Jamie York. Jamie York is one of the best and most, I'd say, respectable property educators in the UK. He also has a sourcing business, portfolio business, and all this kind of stuff. But I found him through YouTube and then started researching him. Went to one of his events, found out a training provider, and actually started getting educated in property properly. I say properly loosely, but I started getting educated in general, wanting naively, very naively, I'll be honest with you, to get educated, to find out, to just soak it all up. You know, and it kind of summed it up where when I was at these training providing meetings and everything, you know, you go to the 3-day event, you kind of sit there and listen to all the training providers talk. You are very naive. You are the dumb person in the room who's got a pot of money there, who just, you know, you're grasping, you really want to learn, so therefore you're sitting there and you're the stupid one in the room. And that's genuine. I'm not even saying that to be like a certain way, it's just the reality of it, because they're salespeople. Most training course providers are salespeople. Well, they all are salespeople, but some have good intentions, some have bad intentions, and without putting negativity on the video, it's more of a case of when you know the system, once you have been there and done it, which I've been around property for, again, 7 years now, you see which ones are good and which ones are bad, and which ones just want to get a healthy amount of money off you and provide the least value, and some want to provide a lot of value and they only really get paid to respect their time, and the latter is really what you want. And it does take a lot of education, listening, and actually being around the right people and the wrong people to understand who the good people are. But enough of that, because that's a whole different conversation for another video, because I don't want to bring this video down. But this is more about the electrician feeding into a side. So got educated in property. I say educated, I started my education, let's say, because you don't become educated overnight. I'm learning every day on this, but also more importantly, like, I learn some very basic things, but I also realised I was learning, and I realised when you're learning, you realise how little you know, naturally, because you're starting from ground zero. Literally, I'm starting there. I didn't know what a remortgage was, I knew what a buy-to-let was generally, but I didn't know about service accommodation, HMOs, commission conversion. I didn't know about anything about property realistically from an investment standpoint. I just knew a mortgage was a loan, and I knew a buy-to-let is you buy something and rent it out. But no more context than that. I was so stupidly naive. It's ridiculous. So to say I've learned a fair bit is an understatement. So yeah, again, I started building a portfolio, realised I could scale this up. How do I scale this up? And I got into property sourcing, where I realised, okay, property sourcing can build one business where I build a portfolio, and I build another business where I've got the sourcing company, which is helping other people build their portfolio. Great, happy days. And then it builds from there. So this is probably 2017 now to about 2021, was kind of like researching, looking into things without really taking a leap. Then 2021, I started the Jamie York stuff, kind of venturing into education. By 2022, I set my limited companies. I was really aggressively doing the sourcing, getting out there, getting my name on, documenting what we're doing. Didn't have a clue what we were doing, mind. Literally, our year one was awful. I was just this little kid who wanted to get into property, didn't know what he was doing, didn't know about marketing. If you guys see some of my first videos on Instagram, on TikTok, on Facebook, you will laugh because they are so crap. Honestly, they're absolutely awful, and it makes it hilarious when you think about it. I think we've improved a hell of a lot, even YouTube, all this kind of stuff. This is more vlogging style, but you get the point. But it's really been an eye-opener. Yeah, that side of things, and really how to actually build a business and all this kind of stuff. Because it's gone from wanting to get educated in property to then being educated in the base and being educated over time into what we're actually doing. And now it's a case of really building a great service to actually provide, and then also working with other people alongside that. But there are levels to this. I can guarantee you guys, without sounding really weird about it, there are literally levels to this, and it really takes time. It really takes time, which is ironically, from a sourcing point of view, exactly why people work with us, because we've been there and done it. Like our first year was, we didn't make any money. We literally didn't make any money. We were literally lost, confused. We had builders screwing us up there front and center, and we didn't know what we didn't know. And we were, again, stupid or naive. Like my first 18 months from education to actually getting things going, we're just naive and stupid about stuff. And that, I think it's not abnormal. I really don't. I really think that there's some people who are very switched on with all this. I wasn't. I have done trial and error from day one. And, you know, we've really grown that way, honestly. Like where we are now is a whole different planet. You know, we've got the portfolio built up. We've got a really, really strong, reliable, respectable, and respecting team, solicitors, brokers, letting agents, and all this kind of stuff. And we're also, like I said, we're helping over 80 people a year get in property. That's either fix returns or build a portfolio or do flips. That's only through repetition of fuck ups. I'm sorry I'm swearing so much on this video, but it's true. I'm not really a big swearer, guys, but it's just kind of like this is something I feel really passionate about, with how much bad stuff we've gone through in order to get to where we are. Because now I'm literally in the middle of Greece. My sister's getting married next Tuesday, and this is why we're here. This is not just a random trip. So my sister's getting married next Tuesday, and I've got a client call in about an hour. So a client call with someone who wants to build a portfolio, so I can do all that remotely. I had a project go ahead 2 days ago, and the build team is in the UK, in South Wales in the UK, doing the quotes, getting that thing sorted out for us, and just doing everything remotely in that sense. And again, we've really built a strong team there where, apart from the content, almost every element, apart from the content and viewings, every other element of the business is fully remote, which to me, if I knew that 4 years ago when I first started this, I wouldn't have believed myself. I wouldn't have believed it. But now I can see the process systems. We've now got, we've built the team to 3 people now, and you know, that's outsourced half the business in terms of what we do. And it's really grown from there. But I've got to say, it's from where we were before in terms of not knowing anything, wanting some education, and to completely failing. It's now grown into a really healthy position. And yeah, I think that's pretty damn cool. So back to the point of the video, if anyone is in a position like I was 7, 8 years ago, where they're a bit, they don't have to be an electrician, they could be a tradesman of some kind. They could be a business owner. Like I'd say most of our clients are just business owners, and they don't feel fulfilled, or they got a pot of money there, they want to get invested to see like, okay, we got X pot here, how can we utilize this, how can we build a future for our kids, for our families, for our lifestyle, etc. Find out more about it. Again, this isn't a big sales pitch, this is just genuinely like where I was 7 years ago and my thought process. This is literally how I thought, like, how can I build the future I want so I'm not so reliant on other people. I can be self-sufficient, I can be independent with it, and I can grind myself, really work hard so that I don't have to work hard in the future. I know I'll get bored, but you get the point. So if you're like that, reach out. because a lot of our I'd say probably 90% of our clients are people who are like that, business owners or tradesmen, typically who are either outside the UK or in London. You can be anywhere in the world literally working with us, but most of the people we work with are literally like that, where they've got a pot of cash, either 50k or more sat in the bank, and they want to get into property, but they don't know their options. And one of the biggest lessons I've learned is through trial and error of just making the mistakes. Honestly, like whether it's the build teams that who you can rely on, who can trust it, whether it's the letting agents and how they actually operate, whether it's the estate agents because they're a whole new niche in themselves, whether it's the marketing to actually find said properties that are going to build your portfolio, whether it's knowing how property works. Like even, I know it's a bit off topic, but even this week we had 2 projects where the vendor, so the seller of the property, is doing a property trade. And a trade is where you're literally buying a property, sell it on immediately. Don't do any work, you're literally trading it like a trading card. So you buy a property for 60k, you sell it to someone for 85k, you make 25k in the middle. Very, very smart way to do things. And not a lot of people know it. And I've got 2 clients at the moment who are literally buying properties just like that, and they've got concerns and everything about that. But it's kind of like, that's because they're not aware, because they're not property investors, their first project, right? So from their point of view, it's abnormal, which I get. So it's like these things that you just don't know what you don't know. And because I've done this for the past 7-8 years, it's, I don't know, I think it's allowed us to really, really help a lot more people because we've been there and done it. And I think even this year, we've raised over £600,000 of investor capital to build our own portfolio. So that can be either fixed returns or JV partners or joint ventures when we go to business together. They put the money in, we do the work. A fixed return angel loan is literally if someone invests with us for example, 8 to 10% per annum fixed return. They put the money in, after 12 or 36 months to get the money back, and that's that. And it's kind of like we've really, really grown a good system with that. Pay the investors back on time with interest. JV partners is a whole different conversation. And it's making sure that we've got our systems in place through the trial and error, through having built the business over the past X amount of years, having made the mistakes of not doing so, to really, really build upon this. And one thing I really like about what I do, and I was having a chat with a family member today about this, is every single client I'm one-to-one with. Every single client, all X amount of them we work with per year. I've got them on WhatsApp, I talk to them every single week. It's not harassing, but just checking in, seeing how they're doing. I love the personal element to all this. It's like, when I was at Sparky, I was thinking, okay, I'm lost. How can I get out of being an electrician? Now that I'm out of being it, I'm like, how can I help that guy? How can I help someone else who is in that position? And for me, the person I wanted back then was literally the person I'm trying to be right now. That's exactly my logic. Like, back then I wanted someone to sit down there, hold my hand, say, you're in this position, here's your goals, work backwards. How can you really achieve what you want to achieve? Even if you don't know what that even is, if you don't know what you want to actually achieve yet is, that's okay. Because over time things will change. I guarantee you my goals now are completely different to 3 years ago, because I've realised the potential with stuff, I realised how much you can scale, I realised how much people comes into this, and I realised the value of relationships. Relationships, I can't say that word. And that takes time, that takes experience, and that takes trial and error and learning. So that's kind of my mindset, where someone needs a hand-holding to sit down and say, look, I'm lost, not even lost, I don't know what is available to me, what's available. There's no pressure with it, it's more just kind of conversation really. So the one lead magnet I'll put in is in the link to the video, in the description to this video, I'll put a link to booking a call with us if you want to have a chat with myself. Just say, okay, where are you now? Where are you trying to get to? Even if you don't know where you're trying to get to, what are your options available now, hypothetically, and then brainstorm from there, guys. Honestly, you don't know what you don't know is the most common phrase I hear every day from myself. Like, in my head, I hear it so much because I'm like, you don't know what you don't know. And being around the right people, like, I'm not even talking about myself now. My cousin is a great marketer, and like, I talk to him every day, and he comes up with these bombshells all the time where he's like, oh, if you do AI and all this, and I'm like, I didn't know that, so I didn't know how to apply it. You know, you don't know what you don't know, right? So it's like, until you actually sit down with the right person who's trustworthy, reliable, true to their word, and actually has good intentions with it, then you can actually say, okay, how can you help this person? How can they actually help me? You know, provide a service. You know, I find it weird, the whole provide a service mentality, but it's literally exactly my mentality. So, hope this video was valuable in some way, shape or form. It's a complete ramble, complete vlog. But yeah, if you like the video, subscribe, like, and if you've got any improvements or things you want to see in future videos, comment it in the comments below. And yeah, speak to you guys soon.